So let's get this started. I'm so thankful that you guys joined us today. If we haven't met yet, my name is Hannah Kirkpatrick. I'm the founder of the team called Arizona Dream Living that is with Equities Real Estate, an amazing boutique brokerage based out of Ahwatukee in Arizona. And today I have had the awesome opportunity to bring on our founder, owner, broker, Ryan Watson, to give us the market update. You know, there's a lot of conversation right now that we were just discussing, you know, as we're talking with our buyers and our sellers on a daily basis. There's a lot of information in the news, right, that seems to be conflicting with the pricing that we're seeing in the market, the reports from real estate that are coming out, but potentially a little bit delayed as they're coming out in the media. And then also the full economic picture, that there may be a recession coming, that inflation is hitting highs, that the interest rates on mortgages are going up. And everybody wants to know what is happening, what will be happening, and is now the right time to buy? Is now the right time to sell? Is now the right time to invest? And or should I just hold? And what would happen if I were to hold for a while and wait? So we're going to use some data today. Ryan's going to walk us through how he does an expert analysis with the data that's available to us as real estate professionals, and share those insights with anyone who is interested in getting perspective on what we see really happening in this industry on a day-to-day basis and projections moving forward. And then at the end, we are going to open it up for question and answer. So if you are just dying to know, here's my situation, how does all of this data affect me? And you want to tell us your specifics so that we can give you an expert analysis. We'll turn the crystal ball on and we'll see what we can do to help you out. I'm playing. I mean, there's no crystal ball, folks, but we are using data historically and moving forward to try to make projections that will be helpful to you, our clients, our friends, our family, people that we care about. So enough from me. Let's turn it over to you, Ryan.
All right, thank you. Awesome intro. And yeah, that's exactly kind of the conversation we were just having, and what we're trying to relay to anyone who wants to watch this is what's going on. So is now the right time to buy? Is now the best time to sell and hold and rent for a year and then buy? All these questions are being, rattled around in the media. Let's see, how can we meet that? Okay, sorry, I could hear somebody talking. So what we're trying to do is give everybody a very clear answer as to what is actually happening. And the reality is what is actually happening versus what is being talked about in the media and in public is not even remotely caught up yet at all. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here and kind of show a few examples of what the public might be able to see. Zillow, for an example, if you're just looking at your local market, our market's the Phoenix market, everything that is available to the average person is all roses still. So supply is up. That's a good thing, right? Interest rates are up. That's not a great thing. As you can see here, interest rates have more than doubled in the past 6 months, but in the past 3 months have continued to go up as well. And this has had a direct impact on demand. And what is not being talked about in the media, I think I just saw an article yesterday, maybe for the first time, that said, is the real estate market softening? It's like, from what we have seen, the real estate market softened 2 months ago. and not just softened, but if you are a seller trying to sell your home right now, you are experiencing this firsthand. If you're an investor, a flipper, whatever, you're experiencing this firsthand. You're freaking out because you went from thinking you were having 50 people tour through your home to maybe nobody. And that is the dire reality of what has been happening. And to go to kind of some historical data here, here we go. So over the past 2 years, here's our sold to list price ratio, and you can kind of see where things got out of control. So just exactly 2 years ago, June of 2020, you were still able to potentially get a property for under asking. And that kind of went all the way through, the original COVID pandemic to the end of 2020, and boom, things get crazy. This is average sold to list price ratio, by the way. So this means, some homes are selling 10% above asking. Kind of dipped down in 2021, and right back up in 2022, back up to almost 3% above asking. And what these stats, again, these stats are trailing because these are just based off of closed listings, but these are just getting back to normal here. But again, these are trailing. What we're seeing in the actual market is a lot worse than this. Some of you might not be able to see this part of the screen if your videos are in the way. Let me see if I can scroll over here. Let's go out. So our price per square foot over the last 24 months, and this is kind of the interesting thing. If your zoom's in the way here, you might not quite see this, but comparing this, again, this is value, this is prices. If we go back and look at something like Zillow, Zillow's not showing us any sort of inflection point here. Zillow's still showing an exponential increase. What we are actually seeing in the market and have now had a month of actual closed solid data, we have an inflection point here. It might not be huge, but we're down $2 a square foot month over month on the median. We're down, $3 or $5 a square, $3 a square foot on the month over month average. This is an inflection point. This is where it's going to tip down. If we're looking at, again, our supply versus demand, our months of supply versus the absorption rate, we can see we were in a buyer's market all the way leading up to COVID. Boom, COVID hits, seller's market the entire time. Again, at an inflection point, these are about to invert again, and we're going to be right back into a buyer's market. So, and Hannah, feel free to jump in at all if you have any questions. I'll just keep going. Otherwise,
yeah, no, I'm loving this. And I was just wondering, maybe we could just 10,000 foot view this a little bit to give some definitions for people if they may not be familiar with what a seller's market is or a buyer's market, like what the absorption, what the kind of our lingo is all about.
Perfect. Thank you. So months of supply, this is essentially how long it would take to sell a listing on average, right? So even back in 2018, it's not that bad. We're looking at, a month and a half of supply. So on average, it's going to take, 45 days to sell a home. So you're active on the market for 2 weeks and then you're under contract and close 30 days later. But still pretty good. However, 2019, we went well above 3 months. So basically your house is sitting on the market for 2 months before you get under contract. And this is what the normal, like this 3 month of supply is actually, if we could go back another 5 years, this is the average Arizona Phoenix market. It would take roughly 3 months to sell your home on the market. But again, we get back into the crunch here. The absorption rate is essentially, how many buyers are available per listing. So again, as you see here, boom, the amount of buyers per listings and the amount of and the average time of how long a listing sits there completely flips. And this is what created our price increase. This is what created people offering over asking. But again, we're at an inflection point here. We're at an inflection point here. We're at an inflection point here. It's all happening. It's happening right now. And this is our historical data. And data in real estate always trails because the things that tend to drag the market down are the listings that don't close. So we're not even seeing data yet about those. We'll get into the weeds with that in a second. Again, so kind of go back up again, 10,000 square feet. We were waiting for years, right? So we're waiting for years for this supply to come back to us so that we could get buyers into homes. We had countless, hundreds, if not thousands of FHA buyers, VA buyers, 0% down buyers who were getting laughed out of multiple offer situations because they're competing with cash. Who's going to choose cash, or who's going to choose a VA loan or a 0% down loan over a cash offer? So that being said, we've been waiting for this supply forever. However, what happened, I don't have a chart to show this, but as supply finally went up, which again, it's actually much higher than this. This is just Maricopa County. Closings went down. We should have at least seen a short-term uptick of closings. If we had so much demand and so little supply and we finally got supply back, we should have at least seen a month, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months of an increase in sold listings. And again, this is not a chart you're going to see anywhere. These are things that we're only seeing in the MLS. And essentially those two things went, completely the opposite way. Supply shot up. Closings haven't shot down, but to see closings go down almost 2% month over month is very scary to me.
So why do we think that's happening in the marketplace? You're right, it doesn't seem to make sense.
Again, all goes back to kind of where we're at with rates. So the mortgage rates went up so fast, we started dealing with people who had pre-quals and things like that they'd maybe been using for 3 months, 6 months, whatever, and constantly seeing those things come in at, probably 2.5% in January, and then maybe 3.5% in February, and then probably 4% in March. And then all of a sudden, their lenders are sending them pre-quals with 5.5%, 6.5%, 7% rates. Those people just froze. They literally just froze in their tracks because we've been spoiled for so long with these cheap mortgages, and that's a game changer. That's the difference in $500 to $1,000 in your mortgage payment. That's not going to allow a lot of people to move forward that otherwise thought they could buy a home.
And where did the cash buyers go? Did they go along with the Bitcoin crash or the digital currency crash, or where did they go?
It's a great question. It's a great question. So the Bitcoin crash, obviously is much more recent. Stock market crash, we've been flirting with the stock market crash, I feel like, for 6 months. I can tell you literally from personal experience, being a cash buyer, being at auctions, surrounded by other cash buyers, I was going into auctions on the county, courthouse steps with what I felt like was very aggressive, calculations and investments or analysis for investments on what I was willing to pay, based off of what the ARV or the market value would be after, investing in some of these homes, and just getting blown out of the water. These cash buyers just literally 2 months ago, paying over market value at foreclosure auctions. So they were still around, but they were switching back to foreclosure auctions because foreclosure auctions had not been around for 2 years because of the moratoriums. So that's my first guess. My second guess would be, don't know where they went. That's anybody's guess. I think they're still out there. However, there are better ways for them to get opportunities now instead of gobbling up things on the MLS. So that's a very good question. But I would actually expand on that because of what you just pointed out, that's going to get worse. People have just lost a huge chunk of money in the stock market. I have a personal relative who just lost $3 million in Bitcoin in the past 2 weeks. So yeah, those people are gone for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
So that would definitely explain some of it. Sure. Great question, by the way. So feel free to throw stuff like that out. Let's see. So where was I? So we were talking about rates.
And about how much the increased rates are cutting out the buyers that we were expecting to come flooding once we had the inventory. And now people are finding, we were talking to some people that have been in construction on a new build for 7, 8, 10 months. And
yes,
if they didn't lock in their rates before, the interest rate might have gone from 3% to now 6%. And they can no longer afford their monthly payments. And so there are people backing out of new construction opportunities, or not opportunities, contracts, actual contracts, left and right now. So that's also one of the other things.
And there was one piece in the news yesterday too, that new construction is crashing nationwide, right? So
yeah, again, so those headlines are just starting to come out. Mm-hmm. But the reality of these things is this has been what's happening for almost 2 months now. So again, a lot of it driven by the rates, a lot of it driven by the fact that we are for sure in a bubble. And then, all these other alternative means of people, being able to have liquidity to purchase homes, like the stock market and Bitcoin, things like that, those have all crashed. So again, kind of going back to answer, the initial question that we proposed, is this a time to buy? Is this a time to sell? Is this a time to wait? And essentially, what I am kind of hoping to show people right now is that we're way past the bust of the bubble. The bubble busted probably 6-7 weeks ago. And really what we're seeing now are an incredibly high amount of desperate sellers. So to kind of move on past our historical stats here, this is real-time MLS. So in the MLS at this exact second, this is basically the full AR MLS, which is mostly Maricopa County, probably 90% Maricopa County, has some listings outside of Maricopa County, some in Tucson, some up in Flagstaff, stuff like that. But primarily the AR MLS is going to be Greater Phoenix area. So this is the number we've been watching for quite a while now, and there's been as low back in December, I believe, we dipped under 3,000 active listings for the first time ever in the Greater Phoenix area. 6 months later, that is quadrupled. All of us were looking for supply. None of us were looking for supply this fast. So what has happened again? So this is quadrupled in 6 months. So go ahead.
Then basic economics tell you with supply increasing, prices goes down, right? Or price go down.
Exactly. And let me show you, I'll prove your point here in about 30 seconds. So, so again, supply goes up, the normal supply. So again, getting below 3,000 was an all-time record. The normal supply about 4 years ago, pre-COVID, there's no chart that tracks this. I wish there was a chart that tracked active listings and pending listings and price reductions and things like that. There's not, but trying to show, again, real-time example of what this is and give also our insight and experience of what we've seen. This number was up around 18,000 4 years ago. So we're by no means at like an unhealthy level, but we definitely hit an unhealthy increase. That being said, for almost 2 straight months now, I've been watching this multiple times a day, every single day, and this is what has been happening. This is the last 24 hours, okay? So, and these are out of all of these 12,642 active listings in our MLS, 730 of them reduced their price in the last 24 hours. That might seem scary. What's even more scary, that percentage equals roughly 6%. So 730 divided by about 12,500 is 5.8. So almost 6%. We've been seeing, and again, there's no chart that tracks this, but this is what I've personally seen. It's what a lot of our agents have seen in this MLS. 5 to 10% of all active listings every single day have been reducing price for 2 straight months. So again, circling back to what you see in the public, does this chart tell you that? This chart does not tell you that. Have the headlines been talking about that? No. They've been talking about rates. They've been predicting, a boom or a bust, whatever. And they've been predicting stock market crashes, all sorts of stuff. They've not been talking about the fact that this is what our actual experience has been. Again, going back to price, right? So we've now seen, these are based off closed listings, right? So we've seen a price or / value decrease already with closed listings. What is not factored in is the listings that not only can't close, they can't get a contract, they can't get an offer, they can't even get a tour. Like these homes are just sitting here, prices just dropping day by day by day. And I know this because I've personally been doing this on a few of my listings. So what this tells a story is now is not only a good time to go out there as a buyer, it's a great time. Yes, the rates are higher, right? So your mortgage payments are naturally going to be more if you're comparing apples to apples, okay? If you're comparing a $500,000 house to a $500,000 house with a 3% mortgage versus a 6% mortgage, absolutely, that house just became unaffordable to you. But guess what? as a buyer, you can probably go offer $450,000 and they would get on their knees and beg you to close on the house. So, but again, backing up, this is the story of where we're at. We as realtors need to go back out and talk to our buyers and talk to them about this. You can go get a heck of a discount right now on a property on the MLS. Sorry, go ahead.
Does this apply to the higher priced properties or the low end, or equal to both? Or
it's a great question. So this is more so happening in luxury markets. Okay, so I had this sorted based off of price ascending, so you can see a lot of cheap listings there. This is happening all over the place in every single price range. And again, the average buyer, so if we go look at what average price points are in Maricopa County, which right now they're about 550,000. So average price points are getting crushed. Lower than average price points are still doing great. Houses that are 200 to 300 to 400,000 are still getting gobbled up because those are people who still need homes. Luxury real estate is, again, if you were to go read in the media, you'd probably hear all sorts of different narratives. If we were to be able to, create a chart based off of price reductions versus active listings for, by price categories, which we don't have the ability to do, I would guess that we have already seen a 10% reduction in value for luxury real estate. So, and again, what is luxury real estate? So, that used to be defined as like over $1 million here in Arizona. That's not really the case anymore. Probably over $2 million now. There's a lot of homes that are regular cookie cutter tract homes that in the Scottsdale area we're selling for almost $2 million. So a lot of those homes are being crushed right now. Again, so is it a good time to buy? Is the market, crashing? Yes. But the argument is this started 2 months ago and we're already on the downcline, and there are already opportunities left and right to be had. Now, do we recommend people just go out here and start throwing their money around and you're going to make money off of investments? No, absolutely not. But for a primary residence, homeowner occupied, it is still a great time to go out and buy a home, even at a 5.7% rate. It's just a matter of already taking a haircut off those prices that you're seeing. If you see a house for sale for 550, you could probably go out and offer 500 and potentially land that deal. So
what about a house for 230 that's listed today, 230, that last changed price on June 10th? Would you go in with an offer even lower than what they're asking today, right? So,
absolutely. I would say across the board, you could be lowballing on anything and everything on the MLS right now. Okay. And that's, quite frankly, that might be the absolute best way to get a good deal. Because
what's really different between right now and 2008 with the crisis is that back then there wasn't inflation and there wasn't high energy cost or the cost of living rising astronomically. So now you have two additional factors that impact your ability to pay the mortgage, even if you still qualify. But there's no end to the other two, right? There's no end to inflation.
Correct.
No end to rising food prices.
Correct. Those are two unknown. Well, three. Yeah, you just threw in a third unknown there with food prices. I personally feel like we haven't even seen the beginning of the food price issue. I hope, again, inflation we just saw ticked up a little bit. I feel like the Federal Reserve is taking care of that. Cross my fingers. But you're right. We have no idea what's going to happen with oil prices.
And one more thing, what if we throw in the water crisis, right? I mean, Lake Mead is now at the lowest it has ever been. All of northern Phoenix is supplied by that 336 mile long aqueduct that needs pumping from a coal-powered power station to get water there. If Lake Mead hits that pool, that's going dry within a few weeks. How does northern Phoenix cope with it, and what will happen to the real estate prices if you can't live in the real estate that you just bought?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, I've personally been out to Roosevelt Lake. I feel like we got plenty of water to come from down there. But Who knows? That I think that's a macro issue for 30, 40 years from now.
Mhm.
I think we probably have plenty of water in the short term. But to add another point, as far as 2008, in 2008, we lost literally, quite frankly, all of the banks, right? So half the banks went out of business, got cannibalized by the other banks. Credit was literally shut off for like, I can't remember the exact amount of time, but it was like 6 months where you couldn't even get a mortgage. So we're not seeing anything remotely close to that. We're still seeing job increases, which again, it's confusing as hell.
Yeah, you can't trust those stats. So
Exactly.
so I'm looking at this particular property that hopefully Kip and I will put an offer down this afternoon. I'm looking at 2005. It sold for 150,000. In 2009, it sold for 39,000. And then in 2020, it sold for 644,000. Now they're asking 228. If this is just the 10% we're seeing now, and maybe the data that's not in yet shows 30-50%, however scary it might get, should it be an aggressively lower offer and see if they buy it, or because it could go back to 39,000 as it was in 2009, which is less than 11 years ago.
Sure. Okay. Great question. To dig into the property specifics gets a little difficult because you just never know who the seller is, right? So on any kind of specific deal, we're always dealing with two parties, a buyer and a seller, and those parties always have specific details to them that we would have no idea, right? Maybe they're flush with cash. They're not desperate at all. Who knows? I wouldn't go out offering 39,000, but the point is, if you're looking at a property and you see it at, let's say 250, and now that the mortgage rates basically is effectively doubling, have made that unaffordable for you, go ahead and back that out, right? So like, what would that value be on a monthly basis from a mortgage standpoint if you were paying 3% versus 6%?
Right. My main motivation to buy is for my son to live here and avoid rent increases, right? That's my main motivation to buy in the local market. And I don't know what the trend is for rents. I don't know if you have a line for that or a chart.
Absolutely. So this is going to show year over year. I'll show you month over month here in a second. So yeah, year over year, median price per square foot up pretty substantially. Months of supply, days on market, etc. Everything from a rental market standpoint, just to kind of cut to it, is out of control in a essentially positive way. There is nothing trending yet in the rental market that shows it going backwards. And if anything, we can obviously justify that the less people who can buy now have to rent, and therefore rents are going to go up. Yep. Again, that's not the only detail, right? Like employment has to do with that. Incomes have to do with that. Average household incomes have to do with that. But to speak to that even more, as an investor who desires to have long-term hold rental properties, I've seen the average incomes of all of Maricopa County go from about $55,000 to almost $90,000 a household in the past 4 years. That's an incredible increase. There's more and more jobs, like Intel's expanding. TSMC, Taiwan, whatever manufacturing corp, who's Intel's biggest competitor, they're building a behemoth, like 20,000 employee headquarters up in Anthem. That's scheduled to open next year. So when you're talking about tech jobs coming here, those incomes are going to keep going up. I think that more than anything is going to continue to drive rents here to a very crazy amount.
Do you track out-of-state buyers versus local?
I have not tracked that, and quite frankly, I don't even know how to track that. There are definitely demographic reports that we can get to show, population increase. Where those people are coming from, I don't track that.
I can speak to that a little bit, Ryan. So I just looked at it not that long ago in terms of the traffic flow of where people are buying from. About 5 to 8%. Lars are interstate moves. So they're selling to, buying and selling to move a few miles down the road within about a 30-mile radius. And then what was the other part of your question? Oh, where they're coming from, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the out of state where they're coming from, we kind of have the ability to see the traffic from different areas around the country. And a lot of our out of state purchases coming in are from California. That's the number one. We have a lot from Portland and Seattle, that area up in the Northwest. We also have a lot coming in from Chicago. And then the rest is sort of diversified around the Midwest. So as people, obviously, we've all experienced with COVID, more and more people have been able to work remotely. It's allowed them to move about the cabin. So we do have some from Michigan, the Midwest, all the way up in the cold states. Many people are coming down here and migrating where it used to be just retirement. We used to have snowbirds that were increasing our housing population. Now we have real working families and individuals, young people of all, people of all ages in all of the markets professionally. And that doesn't seem to be slowing down, as Ryan was mentioning, at any point soon.
Yeah, and to expand on that, my personal experience being from the Pacific Northwest, almost my entire clientele for the past 24 months have been people relocating from there, from my network where I used to do deals up there. They've been reaching out to come move down here. And I'm not talking a little amount of deals. I'm talking 20 to 30 deals per year of just people from my network who work for Amazon, who work for Facebook, who work for Google, who've essentially been told for the rest of their lives they get to work remotely. So they have these cushy $200,000, $300,000 a year jobs and get to come buy a house in Phoenix for under $1 million when their houses up there are $2 and $3 million. Mm-hmm. It's only going to keep happening. So again, there's so many issues, micro market. There's so many issues, macro economy. I mean, I think overall, Phoenix is going to be a very protected market. That being said, if I had a crystal ball, and I've been saying this for 24 months, that I thought COVID was going to cause a plateau. I thought that was going to happen instantly. Who knew that they were going to hand out free money for as long as they did, as often as they did? Who knew the rates were going to stay as low as they did, as low as they did? Again, those things aren't over. The money's not being handed out. The mortgages are not borderline free anymore. So we're going to see a shakeup. And the point, I think, is to say it's been shaken up. It's shook. It's already shook. And now we're basically seeing opportunity. Again, that opportunity could get better and better and better. Where is it going to stop? I don't think we're going to see 50%. I don't think we're going to see 30. Again, I predicted a plateau. We're past that. We're going to see 10%. I fear 20% because I fear if we hit 20%, it could kind of spiral out of control from there. But we might not even see 5. I mean, if the stock market can kind of slow its contraction, who knows what happens with cryptocurrency. But if those things can just calm down a little bit, this could stop right now. Like we could see a 2 to 5% decrease and then a plateau.
50 to 70% as in 2008, 2009. You don't see that?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Especially in Phoenix. And this is what I've been saying for a while too. I think there's going to be micro markets where, for example, Springfield, Missouri, right? Springfield, Missouri has not had a population increase of any significant amount ever. Okay. Their property values, just like the rest of the country, quadrupled in the past 4 years. That doesn't make any sense. Their average household incomes did not go up. They have not had a population increase. They have not had job increases. So there will be some micro markets around the country where once this craziness stops, as far as the property value increase, which it probably already has, that it's going to fall off a cliff. Austin, Texas, one of the most popular markets in the country, they've already seen an inflection now for 2 months. So they've seen a price value decrease for the past 2 months. So they were one of the first kind of canary in the coal mine markets where we started seeing that. I think there will be a bunch of markets around the country, micro markets, suburbs, things like that, where they could cut in half, 100%. And that would be a horrible thing for those people, those markets.
And do you see a micro market within the Phoenix area, like Glendale versus a Sunny Slope, or Tempe?
Because of the population increase, we are seeing just massive amounts of gentrification in those areas. They are the number one target for house flippers. I mean, every single market where there used to be cars in the yard is now a brand new renovated home. So most of our leads right now, I mean, Hannah and Kip, you know this, most of our leads are coming from like Maryvale and these markets where quite literally 4 years ago, one of the first properties I sold when I moved to this area for $40,000 is now selling for $400,000.
Wow.
So 10x over 4 years. That's with jobs, with the growth of the city, that's not going to change. You might see some micro markets around Arizona. That would be kind of a stretch, depending on what's going on in those markets. There's just nothing in the Phoenix market from a population standpoint, a job standpoint, a household income standpoint that would justify any sort of downturn long term whatsoever. So
to add to that, as of about last week, the population increase in Phoenix was 238 people per day still. Yeah. So it is kind of the growth that we were experiencing back in the early 2000s. For those of us that are old enough to have been here back then, we were growing about 300 or so people a day back then. So the rate is sustainable both from the professional working people as well as retirees, the baby boomers that are coming down from the cold areas. So, we're getting that growth from both areas, both places, which is why that will help to sustain the pricing, Lars. So we're not expecting it to absolutely just go off a cliff, if that helps.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you, Lars. Anything else from you? I'm going to open it up to see if there's questions from other folks, and you've had really insightful additions and questions. So thank you for
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation and the data. That helps.
Wonderful. Yeah, we're glad to have you on. We really do care about our clients. Hopefully you're getting that vibe from us and our team that we're not here to just sell houses. We're not transaction-based people. We are people who are in this business to serve. And from the deepest places of us, we do that through giving you the greatest value that we possibly can, whether you're looking to invest, whether you're looking to buy, to sell, to set your kids up, whatever your life situation is. And we wanted to offer this today to really kind of put our money where our mouth is and just, free of charge, put it out there and say, hey, look, you guys, you can get info on the news. It's scary. It's conflicting. There's all this stuff going on. But from boots on the ground, real estate experts, we are in investments. We have family that are buying right now. We all have family that are selling right now. We represent a ton of people on both sides of transactions. What are we really seeing, and what's this data? And it's really just to serve you, right? Because it may be, that you're not going to buy or you're not going to sell right now, even though there are lots of good reasons to do both of those things. But we're not here to try to convince anyone. We don't sell people. We don't pressure you. We're not the kind of people that are going to be like, this is the best time to buy. We all know those agents, and it makes me insane. They say that straight for 10 years,
Yeah.
And then you just lose trust because that they're looking out for their best interest. And that's just not how we roll as an organization. So I hope you feel that. I'm glad you felt that. And are there any other questions? I see Sue on, I see Danielle on, I see Anthony on. Any other questions from you guys? We promised you another 20 minutes if you want to take our time. And I can unmute you, or you can unmute yourselves.
I got kicked off of Wi-Fi, sorry. Sorry. To your point earlier, I just wanted to say thanks to Kip. You have a great team member. He's been helping us for the past 3 days now to look around, and it was a pleasure working with him, and hopefully we put an offer down this afternoon. I just want to say thank you, Kip.
Hey, thank you, Lars, for helping out. Those were some very good questions.
We appreciate that feedback, and I'm glad he's taking really good care of you.
Thank you, Lars. It's been a pleasure meeting you and working with your son again.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anything else? Sue, Anthony, Danielle? If not, that's totally fine. If you guys have specific questions, I think Lars set the tone really nicely of giving very specific examples of what's on his mind, what's on his heart, what he wants to be able to crunch with us. So if you have, people you're working with, or it's yourself, just now's the time, shout them out here.
What's your feeling on, let's say, Chandler specific with the Intel growth? Do you see growth here higher than anywhere else, or
In line with others.
Yeah,
in line
very,
with-
yeah, very good question. So Chandler, again, very, very protected market. If all of Greater Phoenix, in my opinion, is protected, definitely Chandler is going to be one of the more protected. Scottsdale, by comparison, I feel like has gone a little too far out of control. Chandler, I've actually been wondering why it hasn't been even hotter because of what you're saying. So again, when we talk about population increase and average household income increase, those higher average household incomes are, like you said, they're going to Chandler. I can't remember the exact amount of new hires they announced recently. That might have changed, but it was in the thousands of people they were going to hire in expansion there. Those are going to be six-figure jobs. So by default, that area is just going to become more and more protected. It's also there's some room to grow in Chandler. There's some more room to build some more homes, but it's running out of room. And once it runs out of room, again, your supply is constricted, your demand can only go up. So I feel like Chandler's a very, very protected market. Again, we're going to see this macro wave of values go down just because of many, many different factors. But so Chandler will still hit that 5 to 10% wave. But the point is, it has all the reason in the world to be justified to bounce right back. I think in 6 months, people are going to be used to 5 and 6% rates. This inflation thing should be hopefully resolved. The fear should be gone. Hopefully we have some resolution in Ukraine and all these things. And it can be right back to business as normal. That doesn't mean a 25% year over year value increase like what we've been getting, but 10, 15, absolutely. I think that's ideally what we should see after a lot of our stuff is sorted out. But no, this Chandler area specifically, top 2 areas in all of Phoenix, at least. So.
Because I know the situation of the person asking that question as well. From a seller's point of view, would you agree with the synopsis that if they can afford to hold on to a property, you were mentioning that there's fewer showings at open houses, there's fewer participants doing private tours. If people are coming in and doing what we're suggesting for our buyers, which are really drastic undercuts, low ball offers, if you will, to really go under the asking price. If a seller currently doesn't need to do that, if they hold on to that property for a while, we're expecting that it will be a long-term investment. That's a good play.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you have a good deal, like let's say you bought a couple of years ago, you have a great mortgage locked in at, 3 or sub 3, like I wouldn't touch that for the world. If you bought like in the past 6 to 12 months and you don't have a ton of equity increase and you need to sell, you got to do what you got to do. That being said, there is a certain type of level of property that people are still fighting over. Hannah, you and I talked about this last week. So if you've done all those items that are going to pop up on the inspection, if you've painted the house, if you've updated those things in the kitchen, if you've updated those things in the bathrooms, and you have that pool and you have that outdoor kitchen and you have all those little things that some of these, not snowbirds, but some of these people relocating from other northern markets want, they're still fighting over those. So those, to give some context on deals I've had, I had a buyer just recently, we haven't even closed yet. We were fighting over, these $800,000, $900,000, $950,000 properties around the Ahwatukee and Chandler areas with 20, 30 other buyers still. And this was after the rates went to 6%. So starting to see that slow down a little bit, but those properties, there's still a ton of demand for. The people moving here want the sun, they want the vacation experience, they want to be on Zoom meetings by their pool and all that kind of stuff. But again, the more average types of homes, Like if your house needs new carpet, it needs new paint, just even basic things, you might not get a tour. Like that's literally what's happening right now. And again, once people get used to these rates, I've purchased plenty of properties with 5.5% rates. That's a normal rate. A lot of these people are spoiled right now, thinking they could get a 2.5% rate or 3.5% rate. Once that shell shock goes away, I think that will help normalize things as well. But right at this exact time, again, unless that house is dialed in, ready to go, you would probably sell it, but just be prepared for some offensive offers and some inactivity, and it'll probably take you 2 to 3 months to sell it. So
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That brought up a couple of little points to me too, as I was listening to that, Ryan. It sort of addresses something that Lars asked before, and we were talking about the micro environments, right? The micro climates of pockets that may not be so affected by a potential decrease are not just geographically regulated. And that's what we just heard you speak to, is that it doesn't have to just be specific areas that are going to be limited, with reduced demand or sustained demand, but it also will be based on the price point and the condition and the additional amenities that people are looking for. So we call that price banding as well,
yeah.
In the different categories that we were asking about in terms of price brackets, but also the condition and the amenities, executive level and retiree level. So that's awesome. And it speaks to me to the point of working with an awesome agent, and not to, toot all of our own horns, but there's a reason that real estate professionals have not gone extinct. If I can be really, point blank about it, because with all of these iBuyers, right, the automated processes that exist out there in the marketplace, we're seeing open doors, we're seeing so many of them. I mean, I could rattle off 5 or 6 of them now. People have had the conversation in the last couple of years. Well, why do we even need a real estate agent when I can go tour myself to these properties and they will accept my offer, and they have their own title company and they have their own mortgage company? And so it's brought up that conversation about what is the value of working with a real estate professional who has these levels of conversations on a daily basis. And I think it speaks to the value of that we know based on what we're seeing every day, how to best represent your side of the transaction. Whereas if someone goes directly to one of those iBuyers, they're not having anyone take a look at their best interest from their side of the table. They're working with essentially the lawyer that is representing the other party. For example, we're not attorneys. I can't propose to be, but we act like attorneys in terms of we sit next to you in the negotiations and we help fight for your best interest in transactions. And I think all of what I've been hearing today really just drills home the point of working with people who are having these conversations, who are working with a lot of buyers and sellers and investors all over the valley, not necessarily part-timers. Which, it also means not necessarily, someone who's been in real estate but doesn't do a lot of transactions. We need to know when to let off the gas. We need to know when to negotiate and when we really can go in and be aggressive. And we need to know how to have those conversations in a convincing way to get our buyers what they want and get our sellers what they want. So just a little plug for the real estate industry as a whole. And those of us that have trained and mentored under Ryan, I think we've learned today the value of that experience and how that trickles down to you guys as buyers and sellers to obviously give you the greatest immediate, but also long-term benefits through perspective. The average in mortgage rates since their inception in the 1940s has been hovering around 7 to 8%. So like you were saying, the sticker shock of, oh no, I'm up to 6%. I remember when my parents had an 18%, I think it was 16 or 18% mortgage in the 1980s, right? And at 16%, they feel like they got a good deal. I spoke to someone yesterday who did had the same conversation. So it's all about perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a piggyback on that. That's a perfect point. There's been all sorts of stories in the media over the past couple of years about like a puppy and a toddler made better stock picks than the S&P 500 or whatever. Like that's what the real estate market has been. Like anybody and their mother could have bought a house or represented somebody or done anything and made a fortune. So we were almost irrelevant for a period of time there because you didn't necessarily need that support. You could waive inspections, you could waive appraisals, and you were coming out way on top. Right now, there's no way you should be waiving an inspection. There's no way you should be waiving an appraisal. Matter of fact, as realtors, we can now probably go out there and get contingencies again to sell homes as a part of our offer. Like, we might be able to have these 3-month deals that we had 3-4 years ago where we get a buyer under contract and they still have time to sell their home. Like, there's so many things that a realtor now can play and give advice to, and also give those details. Like, again, if you heard you were supposed to waive all these contingencies, no, stop. Don't do that anymore. That now is not that time. So, and a realtor who's out doing deals, hearing these things, successfully negotiating these things, as a broker who's seeing, you know, dozens of contracts a week come through, and what we're achieving, we're every single offer has an inspection right now. Every single offer has an appraisal in it. We're successfully getting buyers to get new roofs, buyers to get, you know, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of repairs done. Just got off the phone with an agent right before this, on a listing, again, on the seller side, and they're being forced to agree to a $50,000 roof. And they have to, because there's no other buyers. So a realtor is going to be able to give you that insight now, to be able to understand like what the market is beyond price, like what can you achieve as far as terms. So great point. Realtors are back. People need us, and now's definitely the time to kind of you know, show people how we can help them.
Thanks. Any other questions? Danielle, Sue, Anthony? Okay. Well, then I think that wraps up our Market Update Live, our very first ever Market Update Live. It was so much fun to be with you guys. And most importantly, I hope that you're leaving with some peace of mind about what is happening. The sky isn't falling. Chicken Little is not coming to life. However, we are seeing an absolute change, boots on the ground style, compared to what is happening in the media and that delayed information that's coming to you. So if I could encourage you to do anything at the end of this, it would be to reach out to your real estate professional who invited you to join this today, and stay close. Let us guide you. Let us hold your hand. We are in this data every day. And every day. And we have our finger on the pulse, and it's changing, and it matters to you, and therefore it matters to us. So you are our greatest priority. We are an agency that thrives based on referrals. And the reason is because we care. And that's kind of our secret weapon, I believe, as an organization, is that we care more than most. And so please allow us to care for you by continuing to offer things. Give us some feedback about if this was helpful, what you'd like to see for next time, if you want it shortened, lengthened, more Q&A, less Q&A, you know, all the things, so that we can change it and make it most relatable and helpful to you today. So thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you again soon.
All right.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Ryan, so much.
Bye. Talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.